It's funny. The other day I was going back through this old journal I used to keep about a year ago, and I remember I was reading the first page, something I had written in January of 2023, and I was kind of like premeditating in my mind what my future would look like, and trying to set the right intention for that year, wanting it to be something special, wanting it to be the best year of my life, as I wrote. And as I look back from where I am now, I think it's almost incredible how quickly your life can change. How quickly you can go from the darkest, deepest pit you've been in to the highest timeline you could have ever imagined. As of the time of recording this video, I'm in a resort in Vietnam right now, recording this in my bedroom. And this timeline I'm on now, this place that I'm at, this future I'm headed towards, everything I'm doing, is something inconceivable, unimaginable to who I was even just a year ago. I think that, in a way, you can only get as far as you can dream big. If you're not willing to look outside the box and look for possibilities that no one has pointed out to you or no one else has sort of, thought about, then you're not going to reach those either. It's like certain things you might not realize are possible or only impossible because they haven't been done yet, or because you don't have a clear framework for those things. Like, growing up, I always wanted a place I could call my own. I wanted a home in a way. I wanted a family because my parents got divorced when I was young and I was always on the move, and I kind of wanted this stability I never got. I wanted to be able to just settle down somewhere and say, like, this is it. This is my home. This is my place. And, I never really had that. Like, I moved in with a step family and I kind of felt like an outsider within my own circumstances, within my own family and my, parents and everything. And at that point, I just wanted to move out, from a young age. I was already like looking forward to a point where I could move out and be on my own, because I thought even being on my own, I could stabilize and call this home more than something like this where I'm expected to leave soon. And there's this like shame and guilt I feel about just being a burden on these people because it's not my real family anymore. And all of this is to say that I made the decision, and I've been working towards this for a year now to get to this point. I made the decision to sell everything I own and travel the world and go live in a foreign country, live somewhere cheaper. This is something that I've seen a lot of people talking about nowadays online. I think it's really started to blow up since COVID, with a lot of people, having the ability to work remotely in certain countries, providing new visa opportunities, and with the rising cost of living, especially housing prices in the United States, there's this term that's been coined, digital nomads. These people are basically individuals who, because they're able to make a consistent stream of income online, they decided to leave their country of origin and go live, in a new country, live in a place where, maybe it's more affordable for them. And I mean, there are some negatives of this. It can disrupt the economies of the places that they end up in. It can totally change the geopolitical situation, like what happened in Mexico City in some ways. If you don't know what that is, you might want to look into that. But for me personally, throughout my life, I found that this was the best option for me. I started to realize that because, in the United States where I live, it's a very nice area. It's very expensive. Real estate is through the roof, one of the highest places in the entire United States. And I realized that when I became an adult, when I turned 18, I wasn't going to be able to just move out. Like I didn't have a ton of experience, obviously. I just gotten out of high school, and I realized I'm not going to be able to just go work at 7-Eleven or some grocery store or Subway and pay rent here. Like even just a 1-bedroom apartment here, or even if I'm like sharing an apartment with someone and we're splitting rent, it's just far too expensive. And when I started to realize that, I was kind of, depressed a little bit about it in a way where I was like, wow, I've always wanted to just be able to leave this environment. I wasn't happy with it and I feel trapped here. And so, I was talking with my brother. He kind of felt the same way I did years ago, and his solution was to get a lease on a trailer. So he was living out of a trailer, kind of moving it around to different trailer parks and paying it off. And then he felt like, not only was it cheaper than an apartment, but he was sort of paying to own something. But we got to talking, and I was saying that, I might have to do the same thing, that I wasn't that satisfied with, the direction things were going in, and I wanted to be able to move out, and it didn't seem feasible that I could pay rent. And we got to talking about different countries, different places that are cheaper, and we went down this rabbit hole of watching different YouTube videos of Thailand, because Thailand is very accommodating to digital nomads or expats, you might call them, especially nowadays. They've launched different visa options, like a digital nomad 5-year visa. They have lots of English. They make it very easy for people who make money online to come to Thailand and live there just like a citizen. Not with all the same rights, but just with the ability to stay long term if they choose and go through the right procedures. So, we looked into it more, and we started to think about it, and we're like, well, how much money do we realistically need? It's $1,300 to get out there for the both of us if it's one way. That's not that expensive. And then once we're out there, the actual rent would be cheaper than where we're from. And, groceries would be cheaper. Most things would actually be cheaper in the end. It's just that you can't work out there. So we needed to find some way to work online. And, this is sort of something everyone wants, of course. Everyone wants to be able to work a job remotely and make enough money they can pay their expenses. Whether or not they want to leave their own country or not, I think these jobs are sort of in high demand. But, me and my brother got to thinking about it, and, we had worked on different businesses over the years, like e-commerce and websites, like all these things that, people do to try to make some money on the side, like crypto, everything. And, none of it really worked out in a big way. To be honest, we ended up losing money on most of it. But we finally figured out something that was starting to work. And we were in a situation where we had this excess money, and we had a decision to make. We were like, okay, we've invested everything into this business, and we finally found something that's paying our bills. We can finally consider either moving into an apartment together, or I move into his trailer, or he sells his trailer and gets a bigger one and we pay that off. Or, we could take a massive chance, leave our country, leave our state, and try to run this business remotely and go live on the other side of the world where it's cheaper. There was a lot we didn't know. There was a lot that, we did wrong. We made a lot of mistakes along the way, but we decided then, and I don't regret this decision despite our inexperience and despite the failures to come, we decided to just take a chance and just save up some money, get everything right and settled, tell everyone what we're doing, get insurance, do everything we thought we needed to do, and we decided to do it. We decided to sell everything we had. We set up a garage sale, we made tons of Facebook listings. I sold things that were, quite frankly, nostalgic for me. I sold my computer, I sold my piano, I sold just so many different things that I'd accrued over the years. Every birthday present I'd ever got, every Christmas present, all of it, just everything I owned, everything that I was up until that point, I sold. And my brother did the same. And we saved up all our money, and we got our plane tickets, and we flew out to Thailand. Now, nothing goes perfectly, especially when you're taking a giant leap like that. Things can go wrong. I mean, it's hard to even admit, but, we got on a plane, and we went from Salt Lake City to Seattle. And at the Seattle airport, we had been told that our layover time was going to be a certain amount, and they changed it on us, and we didn't realize, and we missed the flight we had scheduled. So we paid $1,300 to go from Salt Lake City to Seattle to Qatar to India to Thailand. So that was the full flight. It was like a 13-hour thing. And when we were in Seattle, we missed our flight to Qatar. So we were kind of panicking, to say the least. There weren't any flights that were going to be able to bring us to Thailand very soon. And we were calling the airline. We were trying to figure out, is there anything we can do? Do you have our bags? We were so inexperienced. We had no clue what we were doing. We did everything wrong. We were rushing to our gate when we realized we were going to be late, and my brother got a call, and they said that they'd just taken off. So we kind of sat down and tried calling the insurance and sat around for a while, and then we realized we needed to go to our gate anyway, and we could talk to the Qatar Airlines representatives. But we showed up, and they were gone. They had already clocked out for the day, so that was a massive mistake we made. And then, to say the least, a lot went wrong. We ended up losing our bags. We couldn't find them. So we lost our bags. We ended up having to just buy new plane tickets from Seattle to San Francisco to Taiwan to Thailand. So we ended up paying another $1,300 just to get where we originally wanted to go. And on top of that, we lost both of our suitcases, which had practically the rest of what we owned. Anything we hadn't sold or put in some time capsules that we buried out in the desert, anything that wasn't sold, was in that when it was in those bags, and we lost them. And a lot of the money that we had saved up, ended up going into this plane ticket, and we missed the flight. So we were stressed out. We have a specific dietary concern, so we had to prep a lot of dried meat and things to bring with us on the flight there, and we were kind of starving and just sleep deprived because all the flights were at different times and you couldn't really sleep on the plane, and it was like purgatory. Those couple of days in the airport, just having this pressure weighing on my mind of having lost everything we owned, not having anything to eat, not being able to sleep, just all of it, just knowing that we just lost $1,300. And then on top of that, we had this business thing fall through where we had ordered some specific expensive custom curtains for this guy, and he bailed on us, and we couldn't get through to him, and you couldn't return them to Amazon, even though we thought Amazon had a full return policy because they were custom. So then we lost another $2,300. And it was just so quickly, this decision we made, this leap of faith, felt like it was turning around on us. Regardless, we pushed ahead. We tried to just keep calm and just keep pushing through. We ended up fighting a little bit on the way there when we were in Taiwan. We ended up just being stressed out and anxious and kind of throwing fits at each other, but we made it to Bangkok. We made it to Thailand, and we were there, and although a lot had gone wrong, we were excited, and we were like, wow, we're here, we're in Thailand, it was all worth it. So the first month, it was an Airbnb. It was $1,000, which is much more than we're paying for now here in Vietnam. I'll get to that later, but we didn't really know what we were getting ourselves into. We had to pick out a place before we arrived, or at least we thought we did, and we wanted a place near a climbing gym, so we got this $1,000 one room apartment in Bangkok, and it was nice, but in hindsight we kind of got scammed. It wasn't as good as some of these opportunities we found later with more experience, but it was fine. We had sort of a hard adjustment at first, trying to find places we could get food, trying to figure out the transportation and the language and the money situation with ATMs and everything, and we'd lost so much money from the plane tickets and from the curtains that we didn't have as much money to invest into our business, so we didn't have that much money coming in. We started to be stressed out that we weren't going to be able to stay out there long term and we might have to go right back. So very quickly, that first month in Bangkok, we started to just become stressed out, and we didn't leave the house very much. We were so ultra focused on okay, it's beautiful, we're here, but we can't enjoy it because we need to spend all our time working on business, because we need to get this thing up and going again, or we're gonna have to go back home. So it felt because we were so worried about the future, we ended up putting in all our time, 14 hours a day, focused on the future, and we started just kind of become depressed and sitting in our apartment in Bangkok and playing video games instead of going out too much, because it just felt so overwhelming. And in no time, we felt that month drifted by completely, and we were okay, this first month had its ups and downs, and we figured a lot out. We're here in Thailand, we got it. Let's change it up. The city is too much for us. We decided that the city was just too massive, too chaotic, too crazy. And so we totally flipped the script. We went to this tiny little island off the coast of this, archipelago. It's basically, this island is called Koh Tao. It's very small, 8 miles wide, with population of 2,000 people or something, let's say. You have to take a 9-hour train from Bangkok to the city called Champa, and then you have to take a 2-hour ferry from Champa to this island called Koh Tao. And so, yeah, we went on this long train ride, and the seats were uncomfortable, and our diet, is very specific, so we like couldn't eat anything. I didn't eat for like 2 days, but it was nice. I mean, it felt like, we were in such a rut there in Bangkok that just being able to get out and go on some crazy adventure to move places was really nice. And we ended up in Koh Tao, and there were some things we didn't expect. We got to our Airbnb there, and it had this giant, like, steep road that everyone drove motorbikes on the island. And to get up this road, you have to drive really, really high, and then, really, really steeply down both ways you go. And so it was sort of stressful, like, carrying all our bags on the way there. And I realized, like, town is so far away from this Airbnb, and the hills are so high that the only way we're going to be able to get into town is riding on motorcycles. And I didn't have a lot of experience with motorcycles. And so very quickly, I started to become kind of like a burden on my brother. And, if I needed to go into town to do something, he needed to come with me. If I wanted to go get something, he needed to be the one to drive me. And so, he started to get a little bit frustrated with this, obviously, because that's not fair of him. And so we decided to try to teach me how to, be able to ride the motorbike. And I got on the motorbike, and I crashed, and I broke both of my wrists. So, we left our home, all this crazy stuff happened, and now I have 2 broken wrists. We're on some tiny little island, and my brother is stuck doing all of the chores in this Airbnb. He's like washing the dishes, he's going into town with our laundry, he's getting us food every day. And because I can't ride on the motorcycle because my wrists are broken, I'm stranded at this resort. It is very isolated, and the only way to get anywhere is up this like really steep hills. It's like a very long walk anywhere. And I tried to make the effort. Sometimes I would go up down to the beach, and I would try to get outside as much as I could, but it was really hard, and I kind of got depressed again. I fell into kind of like a rut as I was just waiting for my arms to heal. And we started getting this YouTube thing up and going, but our audio is terrible because this place was just so loud right on the ocean. And there were all sorts of weird issues, like, the power was constantly turning off, and there was no AC, there were just fans that were blowing us, so it'd get really, really hot if you weren't directly in front of the fans. And at night, if the power turned out, it would wake you up because it got so hot. And the Wi-Fi would randomly turn out, and there weren't actually vents. You could just like open windows, so there was mold growing in my room everywhere. So we went from one extreme to the other. We went from some giant city with all the amenities we needed to some tropical island in the middle of nowhere that's so small and isolated. And both of them were kind of subpar. Both of them, we kind of fell into similar, problems and ruts. And it was more pronounced the second month because I broke my wrist. And so again, we decided, wow, we've lost a ton of money. And, when we were spending all this time trying to get our business back up and going, investing in other opportunities, we tried to do some things with TikTok Shop, tried to invest in some other opportunities, and we ended up losing even more money. So at this point, we were very close to the wire. We didn't have that much money left. We were taking out like credit card debt. It seems like I felt like a gambler who was just like, if I just keep gambling, I'll get back to even. We just didn't want to have to go back home because we were like, we set out here to just stabilize and be able to work on our futures and work on the business and work on the YouTube. And we haven't even had that. We've had so many curveballs thrown our way. We've, had broken wrists, we've had lost money, we've had missed flights, so many things. And we were like, we've committed so hard. Let's see this through to the end. And so we decided to leave Koh Tao. We decided to leave Thailand and go to Vietnam because we realized it was cheaper in some ways. And so we found this place, and it looked really nice on the Airbnb, and it was a good price. And we didn't know very much about Vietnam, and we had kind of, been in the riptides lately because, we didn't know what we didn't know, and we were about to take another crazy risk, but we decided to do it. We, picked up and left and took the ferry again and took another 9-hour train up to Bangkok and got on a plane in Bangkok, and we flew to Vietnam, and we've been here for about a week or two. And it finally feels like everything is changing for us. Like, this resort is perfect. It has all the amenities we need. It's far enough away from a city that we don't feel overwhelmed. There's like nature, there's rivers right there. But also, we have a city, we can go in, we can get things we need. We can, go shopping for specific things that they didn't even have on Koh Tao. And not only that, the YouTube's been doing really well. And, this business we've been working on is starting to make us money again. It starts to feel like we've finally gotten out of the situation. Like, even my wrists are going to be healed soon and I can take these bandages off. So that's where I'm at now. Sitting here, recording this video. I sold everything I owned. It's kind of still all up in the air, but I don't regret any of it. Even though, I've lost a lot of money along the way, even though a lot of mistakes have been made, and I could sit here and beat myself up about each one of them. I could sit here and obsess about every failure, every problem that's occurred, or like all these terrible things. I could sit here and think, what if I hadn't gone on that bike? What if I hadn't broken my wrist? What if we hadn't missed our flight? What if we hadn't lost our luggage? What if we hadn't done that curtain job? What if we hadn't invested in the TikTok shop? I could sit here and think about all of the losses, or I could just think about what an incredible situation we're in now that makes it all worth it. It's like $400 a month to stay here at this resort, plus food and things, but between the two of us, it's still so much cheaper than if we were in the US. Like, this opportunity might not have seemed possible from the outset. Most people couldn't fathom it because they just don't know. It takes a level of being willing to throw yourself into something and figure it out while you're falling. I think that's a very valuable human trait. It's a very valuable thing to have, and I think despite everything, I'm glad that we took those risks. I'm glad that we got into this position, and maybe we took some losses along the way, but I think you kind of need to break some eggs to make an omelet, you know what I mean? And it's character development. No matter what, even if I have to go home, I think this has been a valuable experience in my life. It hasn't been perfect. It hasn't been a vacation. At times, it's been terrible, but it has been the most alive I've ever felt. It's been something that I could sit and tell my grandkids someday if I have them. It's something that really truly gives life the flavor that we're all looking for. And maybe it's not the most fiscally responsible thing to do, but I think as long as it's a good enough plan, as long as, you feel like there's nothing stopping you but your own inhibitions, your own fear, then I think you should take risks. I think you should take chances. And sometimes, it's not as simple or straightforward as it appears, but there's always a way to just keep pushing ahead and turn your life into something that you would be happy with, because we're all in, That's something that I think about a lot. Like, no one gets out of this life without dying. No one gets out of this life without suffering. You're all in, so you might as well try to do something crazy, get something out of it. I think that, if I could go back and I could change anything, I would just tell myself, try to enjoy it more. You don't have to be so stressed about staying out here. You don't have to be so stressed about anything. My entire life, I've realized, I suffer more in my own imagination than in reality. If I just allowed myself to feel more peace and happiness and acceptance, that would go a long way. But now I'm in a good situation and I just want to fight to maintain that. I want to fight to make it all right. And whatever happens, I can be confident that, I made the right decision as long as I follow through. And so in your own life, use this as an example and see where it gets you. Maybe don't be as crazy or as stupid as me, but I think there's something very valuable about getting outside your comfort zone, doing things smart, but doing things that, maybe make you uncomfortable, maybe make you feel a little bit nervous, but excited and thrilled to be alive and to be chasing a crazy opportunity like that. That's the true character development. That's what, makes someone who they're meant to be in a way.